St. Vincent de Paul used to say that he had one sermon and he twisted it in 1,000 different ways. Of course, that was an exaggeration, but his point was that there's a core to Christian teaching, a core to the Christian faith. And that's what must be repeated over and over again, so people take it to heart and don't forget it. And so it must be. And we find that teaching in the readings tonight. The gospel, they asked Jesus, which is the first and greatest commandment? They're trying to trip him up, but of course he always has the right answer. And what he does is he quotes the book of Deuteronomy about love God with your whole heart, soul, and mind and strength. And then he adds to it from the book of Leviticus, and your neighbor as yourself. So these weren't two new commandments with Jesus. He was repeating them from the Old Testament, but he was combining them into one commandment. You can't love God if you don't love your neighbor, and you can't love your neighbor if you don't love God. And so love is at the core of the Christian message. And we're called to spend our lives loving God with our whole being, heart, mind, and soul, and our neighbor as ourself. And if we do these things, then we're going to find resurrection and life. St. Paul, in the first reading, says that if we've died with him, we shall also live with him. And if we persevere, we shall also reign with him. That perseverance in love of God is always often entails self-denial. It demands sacrifice on our part. To really love God with our whole heart, we have to give of ourselves. And to love our neighbor, we have to give of ourselves. And so when someone asks us for help, if someone needs our help in any way, we are to do it because that person is loved by God first. And even if it's a person that we find distasteful, St. Vincent de Paul also said that sometimes when the poor come to you, they're dirty and ragged clothes, and sometimes they've got a rough attitude. And he says, well, if you were homeless and hungry, you probably wouldn't have a good attitude either. And he was saying that we have to look beyond that and see that there's a person there who is suffering. And he's so wise in his teachings. And so today we hear that great core of the Christian message, and we know that the result of living it is eternal life with God, the resurrection. And so to love God and love our neighbor is the core of the Christian message. We can't hear it often enough. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.